Stirling Hinchliffe is my guest on the program this evening. Stirling, how did you meet your wife, Megan?
Well, we mentioned Craigsley State High School earlier. Megan and I were actually at school together in the same year level. We're the same age. So we first met when we were both in year 8. Yeah. We weren't childhood sweethearts. We weren't, boyfriend or girlfriend at school. But through mutual friends, we stayed in contact, I guess, and met again later on when we were both in tertiary education. And I think the fact that we are very much products of our local community, we know each other very, very well, has provided a real strength and solidity to our relationship.
Was it a family decision taken for you to go into politics, or was that something that you already pretty much made your mind up about because you needed an enormous amount of family support to make this work?
Yeah, look, definitely in the end it's a family decision, but I think part of Megan and I, the development of our relationship, there was an understanding that there was an aspiration there.
Yeah, okay. From a very early age?
That's right. Yeah. And so our relationship sort of grew together knowing that. But Megan's intelligence, her wit, her capability in her own right, I think has made my ability to do the things that I've been able to do, possible. I genuinely don't think it would be possible or would have been possible for me to even become the member for Stafford unless I'd had Megan's great support.
It strikes me it puts a lot of pressure on family life, and yet it almost seems that it would be something that might even be impossible to get into if you were a single man.
Oh, look, I think there are certainly plenty of people who are single who are involved in public life and who have the capability to do it very well. And I'm sure they have all sorts of other support mechanisms that make that possible. But I know that my primary support mechanism is my wife and my family, and I couldn't see how I could do what I do without them. Not only from the point of view of wise counsel or advice from time to time, but the real fundamental things like how you keep yourself going, sustain yourself physically, or have all the things you need, like the household organised when you can be working so many hours.
You've got 3 kids. Are they supportive or proud of the fact that their dad's a politician, or is it too early for them to sort of be conscious of that?
Oh, no. They're 14, 11 and 6, so they're, the older ones particularly, are pretty conscious of what I'm on, and my youngest daughter really doesn't know much else of a life. So they're, look, I'm pleased to say that they are generally pretty proud. I had the opportunity just the other day to go and visit my middle son's class and speak to his Year 6 class around persuasive writing and persuasive speaking and the techniques thereof. So that was something where I enjoyed the fact that when I looked around the room, I caught his eye every once in a while, and I could see pride in his eyes.
That's a pretty special thing, isn't it? Now, you've also got a pretty substantial interest in history, local history in particular. So is something that you remember that piqued that interest early?
Oh, I think, as I've mentioned before, that wanting to learn more. And I'm a very place-based sort of person. I think, places make sense of the world.
It's easy to understand yourself when you understand yourself where you fit in, isn't it?
Exactly. And so to that end, I think because I wasn't a long-term local, as it were, as a kid, when you arrived, you wanted to learn more about what was going on in the area. I think, to be honest, one of the things that sparked my interest in local history in my own area, in the Chermside area, and I was the founding president of the Chermside and Districts Historical Society, which was a bit of an odd thing for, I think, someone in their mid-20s at the time. But at the time, the thing that sparked my real interest was some of the more modern things, like the fact that what's now Westfield Chermside was the first ever American-style shopping mall in Australia. To have those little quirky things in your local area, I think, is nice to know and nice to be able to be a little sort of odd little bit of pride about.
Yeah.
So that was what sparked my interest in local history. And I guess the broader issue of history is all about that public affairs. You don't know where your world is going unless you know where it's come from.
What are you particularly interested in at the moment, history-wise? Something in the back of your mind that you've been thinking over or thinking about or looking at?
Well, I've got to say, certainly in the context of my role as Minister for Mining here in Queensland, clearly there is so much of Queensland's history has been influenced by the resources sector, and so much of its future will be influenced by the resources sector. So I think it's been very useful for me to delve back into Queensland's history, to delve back into the details around some of that development of that resources industry, be it way back into the 1860s in Gympie, or be it in the development of the coal industry in the 1950s and 1960s.
We don't have a lot of time left, which probably reflects the question that we're going to ask you. How do you spend your spare time? How do you get away from your public life?
Oh, I think the most valuable thing is to spend time with my family.
Yeah.
And that can be something as simple as catching up with extended family at a birthday party, or got such a large family that there's someone's birthday parties at least once a month.
Yeah.
Or one of the things I like to try and do is be involved in my children's activities. Obviously, my older sons both play basketball as well, and I don't have the chance these days because time doesn't permit me to be their coach all the time. But I like to sort of support those activities and be involved and be as hands-on as I can with helping them.
Got a succession plan, something in the back of your brain for where you might like to see yourself in 20 years' time?
Oh, well...
10 years' time, maybe?
I think my view is I'd like to continue to be contributing as a member of the Queensland Parliament for a lot longer yet.
Yeah.
I've only been in the Parliament now for 5 years or so. I think I've got more to give, but longer term, I think at some point there's a time when I'll have to make sure that it's Megan's turn to be setting the agenda of what our family's doing, and I know she'll be looking forward to that too.
Very important to remember that.
Yeah.
Stirling Hinchliffe, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Shaun.
You've been watching Meet the Ministers. I'm Shaun Bindley, and I look forward to joining you again next week.